What up, y'all? Let's jump into it today. More kingdom living, how you can build your kingdom, and how powerful that is for you on your journey, because it forces you into being someone quite incredible. That increases your money game, increases your attraction with the opposite sex, and help you be in shape and think sharply. These are all things that you need as you move forward. Because look, now there is truth, right? We don't need to compete, all that stuff. There's a lot of truth to that. But the reality is you are in some ways competing. And so when you embody these things, when you become the tip of the spear moving towards your goals, then you can actually achieve the life that you desire. And it'll actually be quite easy for you because most people don't go the extra mile and they don't understand the concepts that you and I are going to get into right now. Today, I want to talk to you about goals. And I'll share with you a little conversation I was having with somebody just a couple of days ago. I was talking to a young man, and he was telling me about how he has goals, but he's not achieving his goals. He gets distracted. It's too easy to kind of get going on the concept or the idea, but then kind of loses traction along the way. And I'm sure you and I and all of us can relate to that. Been there myself. Over the years, I've learned some powerful secrets on how to create exactly what you want in life. And I realized like that's the goal, right? Like we actually just want results. Like that's what matters, dude. Like all the shit, like all the degrees, the plaques, the different things you pick up along the way, you have to look at them and assess like, is this actually valuable for me in my journey? Is this moving me closer to where I want to go or not? And it feels oftentimes good to grab certain things or get certain pats on the back. We often, as humans, are moving towards validation. So what that means is, again, that degree, that plaque, that certificate, or just doing something, having the job that appeases people or looks good or getting the new car. These are things that don't actually move you closer to your goal, the life that you want. You're actually pursuing someone else's validation, if you think about it, right? So maybe getting that new truck that you liked, incredible new truck, but you bought it at a time. You bought it at a time where you could use that money to actually do something else, to actually create the business that you want, move into the lifestyle that you desire, create more passive revenue for yourself. And instead, you become a slave to that vehicle, like quite literally, right? If you think about it, let's say a truck that costs $50,000 a year. Well, some people don't even make that in an entire year. And so you're literally working 1 year of your life just to pay off this truck. But if you would just work in a little bit differently, if you build your income in a way that it could produce its own passive sources of revenue, we've talked about in some previous episodes, we'll talk about that more in the future, then you wouldn't be a slave to that luxury type of item. Not that having those things aren't valuable. They're very worthwhile. But what you have to do is ask yourself, why did I purchase that in the first place? Like actually why? Like if everybody's eyes were closed or if everybody was blind, would that truck actually matter to me? Would I still buy it? So that's what you're assessing. If it's deeply down in your core, yes, I want this, then there's going to be motivation around that. There'll be incentive. There'll be a fire to move towards your goals. But most times when we're doing it for vanity, we actually lack a little bit of extra fight that's needed to get to where we want to go in life. So I'm talking to this young man, and we're talking about, how easily he gets distracted. And I mentioned that, what I tell him is that you need goals that matter so much to you that you're willing to walk through flames. Okay. His response was, I do have goals. And I had to like shake up the frame a little bit and go, look, dude, everybody that you see, everyone you can see right now, right, and beyond, all have a goal. They have many goals, but the reality is very few reach those goals. You missed the point when I said you have to be willing to walk through flames to get there. And so what that means is you have to have emotional leverage. Your emotions need to be tied into it. It needs to matter to you. You need to feel it in your core. Like, this is where I want to go. This matters to me because of these reasons. That's the key. So then, which was good. He asked like, well, how do I do that? Okay, I get what you're saying. That makes sense. Because you got to quit, right? When things get hard, if it's not really like deep down in your bones, like you don't have a deep, deep burning desire to achieve the lifestyle you want or the goal that you're looking to reach, you'll quit. And that's just reality. And so he's like, all right, that makes sense. So kind of like, here's my goals, right? You want to have some financial independence, X, Y, and Z. A lot of common goals. I'm like, cool. That's not enough. You don't have enough emotional leverage around it. And that's the key, is understanding the concept of emotional leverage. And what you want to do is when you think about a goal is you think about it, what you'll see, right, is the topical version of the goal. Like we're looking at the goal. Like I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to have a job that pays 10K a month, or I want to have my own business. That's like the topical view. You can see the goal here, but you really want to get down and get in the minutia of it. You want to get to it almost energetically. So let's use that example of like, I want to lose 20 pounds. And so this young man was asking me like, okay, well, explain emotional leverage to me. So I was like, all right, look, let's say you want to lose that 20 pounds. We're going to look at it from two angles. We're going to look at the carrot. We're going to look at the stick. That's a reward system and like a position of punishment or pain. So first, we'll look at the carrot. If you lose that 20 pounds, start building some emotions around it. Like, what does that do for you? What does that look like? Okay, like what would happen? Maybe I'd feel a little bit better, be a little more confident. Maybe I do some extracurricular activities. Maybe I start to meet more people and I keep pushing, go more. Like, what else might happen? If you're doing those things, what else might happen? Well, damn, maybe actually with that confidence, I meet some, some people, a woman I'm attracted to. Maybe I start to make more money. Maybe I start to think differently. Okay, great. Now, if those things start to happen, what else might take place? Damn, maybe I find myself traveling more. Maybe I start to experience life differently. So now do you see how we're creating all this emotion around the simple goal of losing 20 pounds? Because originally, from the topical view, just looking at the goal, there wasn't enough emotional leverage for you actually to do the thing. You're like, all right, like I'm going to get out there and work out today. For what? Like, just so I can say I lost 20 pounds, look a little bit better. But when we dig into these emotions, we get maximum leverage around ourselves. Then we're like, yo, I can't miss this workout. I got to get to the gym. So we push the carrot, the reward, the upside. Now, the reality is everybody is motivated a little bit differently. Some people are going to be motivated more towards their upside, like the reward system, that carrot concept. And some people are going to be more risk adverse, like they don't want the negative side of things. And so we need to look at that as well. And we're going to use both of those systems. So then the question becomes, to create that emotional leverage, if you don't do this thing, if you don't lose the 20 pounds, what might take place? All right. You stay the same. You feel kind of stuck. Nothing really changes. And I'm not really happy maybe where you're at, or you're not really happy where you're at. And man, maybe you just start to get more depressed. Maybe that 20 pounds turns into 25, into 30. You don't meet the girl. You don't start the side business. You work a job you don't like. You stay stuck there. You're not, ooh, man. Maybe you start to get sick. Now we're really adding more motivation. So then we can look at these ends of both spectrums, and then we gain maximum leverage around ourselves. We're like, oh, shit. Like, here's the things that I got to do, right? Like, this is why this matters. And then once I explained this concept, it was like it clicked. Like, oh, damn, I get it. I see how valuable that is. And I see what's missing, the young man kind of realized. Like, I'm missing this emotional leverage part. But he actually asked a good follow-up question from here. He's like, well, look, here's the truth, is I don't have a lot of life experience. And so I don't have a lot of reference points. So when you talk about living like a cool life, having certain luxury items, taking vacations, meeting the girl, I've never really done those things. It's like, damn, that's solid. Like, that's fair, right? Because if you don't have a reference point from it, it's kind of plastic. It's harder to feel it. So I told him, awesome, there's an art to living, and it's time for you to learn the art to live. And what that looks like is you have to start stretching, expanding your comfort zone, stretching the routine. And so you may not be able to take that fancy trip or go talk to that beautiful girl right now, or drive that luxury car, or buy the luxury house, but you start small. Like, quite literally, dude, and I've done most of these things, right? Or many of these things, is you can go to, like, back in the day, I remember doing this, like trying to get experience around this and understanding what it meant to really live. Because I had a mentor once that told me, like, yo, man, you actually don't know how to live. Like, you have these distant goals. You want to create money. You want to do this. But it's like your brain can't connect to it. It doesn't really understand, like, why this is valuable to you. It can't feel it, right? That's the key. Remember, as a human, what makes you unique, this is a powerful fucking point, so don't miss it, is your emotions. So it separates you from robots, from the AI, all that is emotions. And so we have to get our emotions connected and kind of like pointed in the right direction. And so part of that is building, just like this young man recognized, these new reference points. And so what I told him is in your town, there's all kinds of these things that you can do for free. So one of the things you can do is go to like a jewelry store, walk in, say hello, look around a little bit, and then ask to try on some fancy jewelry. Like if this is your gig, if that's something that might motivate you, right? If not, try it anyways. Just check it out. See what it feels like to put a ring on your finger that's worth a few $1,000s. Just check it out, right? Maybe a watch that's worth 10K, 50K, something like that. Maybe a chain, put it on, just look around, just feel that energy. Like, damn, all right, dope. You can go test drive cars or go look at car lots and just look at like, damn, that looks different. That feels different. Sit in the car. I don't even need to test drive it. Just sit in it. Just go, you mind if I just sit inside and feel it? Just feel what luxury feels like. You're like building those reference points slightly, right? You're starting to get a breath of what that's like. And that starts to engage your unconscious mind. It starts to crystallize that goal. And that's the key. Because another valuable point here, like what will separate you from the people that don't achieve their goals, and as you as someone who does, is your ability to focus. They lose focus along the way. You have to stay laser sharp. And you can only do that if you maximize what we're talking about here, this emotional leverage. Okay, so I tell them, go do these things. Then, okay, maybe you can't afford the vacation right now. But the reality is in the city you live in the area you live in, there's probably at least 10 things that are pretty fucking epic to do that are absolutely free. I was like, I want you to go experience those things. Go get engaged with them. Because you can kind of frame it like this. Like imagine a friend comes into town. Imagine I come visit. I'm like, yo, what's up, man? What are we doing? You should have at least 10 things that you and I could do, or this person that comes to visit you. Maybe it's a girl. You get a long distance relationship. She comes in. What can you guys experience together that doesn't cost money? Right. So like in my area, there's some epic lakes, beautiful hikes, there's waterfalls, there's art structures, there's a river that goes through the middle of town, the city center. Like there's all kinds of cool stuff that you could actually go experience absolutely free. So then you go experience those things and watch. This is what starts to happen. Your brain is like, damn, this is pretty dope. Like I'm learning to live. That's the key. You're building those reference points, first-hand reference points. Not through the TV, not through the internet screen. You can't feel those things. Your body can't fully resonate with them. So you actually go do the thing. You get out in nature. Again, absolutely free. Okay, from there, then what you do is you go another layer. Now you expand into, let's say, a 4-hour drive. And then what you're starting to look into is like national parks, things like that. And these national parks are incredible. I don't know if you've been or not, but if you haven't, absolutely do this. This is something I did. I've gone, a few times throughout my life, but last summer in particular, I took my kids and we went to multiple national parks, many national parks all over the place. And the crazy thing is, a national park typically around like $10 to go visit, like super cheap. And I think in California, like you buy one national park stamp and then that day you get to go to all the rest of them for free. And so there's one day, I think we went to 3 different national parks in one day. Every single one we rolled up like, oh yeah, just go in. Oh yeah, go in. Maybe it was 4 even. Went to a beach at one point. We're in the mountains. One point we're watching walruses by the ocean, like all kinds of cool stuff. And so you're, again, building these experiences in. Now you're stretching a little bit. You start to barely pay, right? You're paying a little bit. Again, these national park experiences aren't very expensive. Anything within a 4-hour drive, not a big deal. Like maybe you go there and you just have a cool lunch. You go check out the national park or the mountain or whatever else might be, right? And you enjoy it. You're building those reference experiences. Now you're creating more emotional leverage. And then what starts to happen is your brain starts to go like, wow, I want to experience more of this, or maybe a better quality of it. Like I'd like to be able to get a hotel, or maybe you get a hotel, but it's like, I want the fancier hotel. And then your brain starts to work with you. This is the key that you and I always have to remember, is that our brain is designed for survival and not success. So it can often be very scarce minded. It wants to stay in its bubble, but you don't want that. The soul, the deeper part of you, wants to expand. It's constantly calling out, constantly reaching for more. And so by doing this, you start to awaken your soul. It's quite beautiful. It's quite spiritual, in fact. You're lessening the ego. You're doing it because you feel called inside of you. You're feeling the textures of life. And this starts to create, again, those reference experiences. Okay. So again, I don't know how long this will take. It depends on your situation, but it's definitely going to accelerate where you're at. So maybe one year it's the free stuff. Maybe the next year you realize that you're actually starting to pay for things. You're doing the stretching yourself. Then after that, maybe it's further out. And before you know it, maybe you're taking international trips. Maybe you're taking bigger vacations. And then again, what your brain starts to do is go, wait a second, this is dope. Like, how do I create money so that I can use it for my vacations? Or maybe long term, I want to do more of this. How do I create more passive streams of revenue or work remote style of jobs? And again, this leads you and lends itself into building the life that you actually desire. But right now, the life that you actually desire is mostly a fantasy. And you exist in this fantasy. And in your fantasy, you believe that one day it'll all happen. One day you'll get your big break. Hey, look, and maybe it will. Some people do. And hey, absolutely believe in miracles, all that stuff, great. But realize that's like a small fraction of it. It's like meeting the perfect partner. Maybe fate will happen. Fantastic. But maybe that's about 2% of what you bet, right? If it was a bet, I'd only put about 2% of my money into fate there. More of it is you actually taking the shots, doing the thing, asking the girl out, right? The more you do that, putting yourself in situations where you're exposed to other people and different cultures and meeting women, that's all going to increase your chances. I'd much rather put my money in that. And then maybe fate and that takes place. Fantastic. But it's the same thing when it comes to achieving your goals, is you're actually looking to garner those real life experiences and break the delusion. This is what happens is oftentimes the brain settles in what we'd call delusion. And so it creates almost, again, that fantasy of this is the way I want my life to live. And then you put yourself in this distant gap because you see the fantasy. You're like, it's way out here. I want to live this lifestyle, but you're way over here. And you're not actually doing the thing that it takes to get there. And so then you're stuck in what a psychologist would call is like cognitive dissonance. You're stuck in the gap in between. And when we're looking at that gap, that's often where depression comes. So rather what we do is we look at the distant goal, where we want to go, then we let go of it. We come back to where we are. And we learn to build a beautiful process. We fall in love with the process. Now, if you watch some of these past videos that I've been laying on here, what I've been talking about is the importance of building your kingdom. Well, there you go. What did I just say? You fall in love with the process, the journey. And then these distant goals just start to take place. It's like they're drawn in towards you. They're more like a magnet coming in towards you rather than you running out towards them. It's the same thing with attraction, by the way. Rather than you running out towards the woman, you just become this amazing man with an amazing life doing awesome things, and they'll be drawn in towards you. That's your focus. You do it for you. And that way, if God forbid you lose your woman, she cheats on you, something takes place, whatever, it's not like you left and you ran out there and you finally caught one. Oh, I caught one. It's like, yo, I'm already on a dope journey. She was along for part of the ride. Someone else can join. There's an open seat, right? Or multiple seats. I don't know how you get down, but that's the reality. So again, that speaks to why it's so important for us men to always be building our empire, crafting that vision. So something you and I can do is a little exercise is to write down a goal in this manner. Like envision that, let's say 3 years from now, we can pick different time frames, but for right now, let's start with 3 years. 3 years from now, I run into you, or your friends run into you, your mom and dad run into you, whatever, at the airport. You've been gone, they've been gone, doesn't matter. You guys finally connect, haven't talked to each other in 3 years. And they're like, oh my God, like, how you been? Like, tell me what's going down. What's up with your life? And just kind of feel into that. Like, what would you say? What do you want to say? Like, is it like, oh, just, sat around and, gosh, got that Netflix subscription finally and Costco membership and doing a lot of that. And, I did take a little vacation and it was just a weekend vacation. Come on, man. Like, what are we doing here? Like, craft that vision so it's emotional, so you feel it. So you're like, oh man, I've been doing this. I actually opened my own business. It's going amazing. It's certainly been challenging, but I'm growing, learning a lot through it. I actually just got back from international vacations. Fantastic. Already got my next one planned. Have a beautiful wife, beautiful girlfriend. I'm just hanging out with some epic friends. I got friends all over my town in different countries, different cities. Like, you're just in flow. Why not? Like, why not that be you? So you start with that end vision. And then you reverse engineer it, right? Well, what does reverse engineering look like? If you're not familiar with that, you literally like take it apart and go, what are the pieces that need to be formulated to achieve that goal? And so if we reverse engineer it, What might those pieces be? Okay. So if your goal is to have that kind of flexibility, that freedom, maybe a side business or a full-time business, or maybe it's a job that allows you to work remote, what are the things that need to take place? I was talking to a young man the other day, and we're talking about remote work actually. And I was like, yo, man, you got to apply for these guys. And even the application, because there's the Epic like remote potential job form, right? Even the application process was a process of him stretching his boundaries, right? Which was good, stretching his comfort zones, actually. So it was good, which is great, right? So he had to put together a resume. He had to learn, and him and I talked a little bit like about how to really understand what the company's looking for versus what you're looking for. Like if you lead with, hey, this is great because I've always wanted to work remotely, that's about you. Make it about them, right? I'm looking to apply the skill sets that I've developed over the years. I want to show you how resilient I can be and how much I can help this company. And here's why I think I'll be the best choice. Completely different vibe, right? So just kind of going through that process alone stretched him. It was outside of his comfort zone because he started to think differently, right? Like, wait, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could go to this place, right? And then now he's learning a new skill set, and then he can apply that same concept to other jobs, other potentials. So this is the part about growing. Like you want your goals to stretch you. You want them to be outside of your comfort zone. And why do you want that? Because when you grow, when you evolve, what it does, one, is it forces new parts of you to awaken. Parts of you that are already there, but they've been kind of hidden, conditioned out of you, or beaten out of you by life, your parents, your culture. Doesn't matter. No judgment. Let it go. Let's just go open and awaken those parts of ourselves. But that's the first thing that takes place is you have this awakening type of process. Then the second thing that takes place is there are parts of you that no longer can exist. When you play on a new level, they just don't get to come along. Think of it like a baseball player, right? You have a minor league baseball player. Well, a certain mentality, right, as a minor league player can't exist as a major league player. So maybe he goes up and he's scared, or he wondered, I don't know how to bunt really well, or I'm not so good at this part of his game. That can't exist at the next level. He's going to have to work those things out, practice them, develop them, and then let go of that old way of thinking. And now he's ready to play in the major leagues. Life is like that too. Like as you evolve in these different steps, there's parts of you that can't go with you. But that's the good thing about pushing and challenging yourself is you want to feel those moments of discomfort. So you're always looking for the edge point, right? Like that's literally one of the most powerful and quickest ways to develop who you are. It takes you out of that delusional thinking, like I was talking about earlier. The delusional thinking keeps you in your fucking comfort zone. Like, yo, you gotta hammer that in, dude. That delusional thinking keeps you in your comfort zone. You look at the goal, you reverse engineer it, you get massive emotional leverage around it, and then you have to actually start doing the things. Like, here's the reality that we all have to look at with the advancement of AI, with more technology coming into play. Information is going to be readily available. It won't be the information. We're all going to have access to massive amounts of information. It'll be your ability to execute that'll make the difference. So you're training that part of you all the time. Another way you can absolutely do this is to look into hobbies. Dude, every hobby I've started, probably every hobby you started, in the beginning was uncomfortable, but that was the fucking goal. That's the magic, right? There's 2 points of magic, I really believe. Well, more than that, maybe 3 that we can really kind of contextualize here. But the first is this white belt part, like doing the new thing, because it's so much discomfort, which is really good. It gets you comfortable moving towards discomfort. Fantastic. You're also smashing the ego when you do that because you can't show up as the expert. We all like it when we feel good, when we feel like, you know, hey, I'm good at this. We get respect and people go, wow, look how good he is or she is. Way, that's incredible. We don't like it oftentimes when we're the new person, right? We have to start at the bottom. But you will never be the expert if you don't allow yourself to go the process of being the white belt. And here's the reality, man, that's pretty special, pretty magical, is the more you're willing to enter into that white belt energy, the more experiences in life you're going to develop and have, which is the whole fucking point, right? Is to experience more shit along the way. So find those things that are of interest to you, move towards them, allow yourself to be the white belt. The beginner, you start from the bottom. And then what takes place, you're smashing that ego. You are, you know, kind of like stripping yourself down. And the beautiful thing about when you're broken down like that is you find out the parts of yourself that can't be broken, and also the things that really matter about your life and you. It's a beautiful gift. And then you move through like the advancement of the process. You're ingraining this new process into your life, and it starts to expand you. You're getting new experiences, those reference points I talked about. You're having more of them. You're trying new things. You're stretching yourself. You start thinking different ways. Also, hobbies have communities oftentimes, most often. And so you're getting exposed to that community and the way they operate, the way they move. And that can be really good for your soul, right? Again, it's expansion, that's growth. And then after that, guess what? At some point, you start to get slightly proficient. Now you enter into a whole new spectrum. And this is where the reward starts to come, but it's a different reward. You get to see like, oh, now I am getting that respect. Oh, I am doing these things. But most importantly, you've shown yourself that you can do that. Like if you are down on yourself right now, if you're bummed out about your life, what I'm explaining right now with hobbies and the white belt journey is one of the most powerful things that you can do, is go through this process. And it's probably because you probably feel that way because you haven't done that with anything in life. You avoid the call. These moments where you can do something new, where you can grow and expand, you step away. Because I don't want to look silly. I don't want to be the beginner. That's your fucking ego, homie. Like, you got to break that shit. You're missing out on massive life opportunities. Like, the coolest thing about going through shit like this is you learn that you can do stuff like that. That's it. Like, that's the magic. And then when you see something else, you're like, oh, I know what this process looks like. I got to start at the beginning. I got to suck. I got to be the white belt. But eventually it'll get pretty good. One of the things I've been doing lately is bachata, like Latin dancing, that's with a partner. And it's really cool. And there are levels to the game, man. There's experts. And I go to these events sometimes because I'm just the white belt. I'm the beginner. I look at these guys and it's very distant. I'm like, damn, man, like, how the fuck? Well, guess what? They started at some point just like I did. And the cool thing is I've done many other things in my life where I started as the white belt. And so I understand the journey. I'm okay with being the beginner. And then, recently I'm like, hey, like I got the basics here. Like, all right, I got a few stripes on my white belt. We're getting there. Pretty soon I'll get promoted. I'll get the blue belt. You get the next step. But you ain't going to get there unless you actually do the thing. You get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And really, man, like the message when it comes to goals is getting that emotional leverage and understanding that what's really going to make the difference is, again, your ability to focus in your goal and to harness that energy and realize that the obstacle is the way and it's not to be feared. It's like actually quite magical. And you'll most often feel what's called resistance, or what can be called resistance. Stephen Pressfield wrote an amazing book called The War of Art, not the art of war, the war of art. And it's kind of that journey that you go through in creativity. And you always feel this resistance. You sit down maybe to write your book and you feel resistance. You get ready to go to the new hobby that you're excited about. All of a sudden resistance comes in. You want to actually book the trip. You're going to do what we talked about. You're going to go visit someplace, or you're going to go talk to the girl. What do you feel? Resistance. But the more you do these things, the more you realize that resistance is just an energy. It's just there. Actually, what I've learned to do, what I'd like you to think about doing, is you look at that resistance as smaller parts of you wanting to stay the same. Remember what I talked about, right? Your growth is awakening new parts and letting go of old parts. So it's those older parts going like, hey, don't leave us. The crab's in the bucket, right? One of the crabs starts to climb out of the bucket. Other crabs will reach and try to pull it back down. Just think of that as like energetically, those lower parts of you just getting let go. So learn to let those parts go. When you climb out, you move, you expand, you grow, you experience new things. And again, most importantly, you've shown yourself that you can do that. And then it becomes much easier to apply that same energy towards something else. You notice the resistance. There you are, my friend. Resistance. Appreciate you. Love you. Because it's kind of like trying to look out for you. It's not really calibrated correctly. Like, so I appreciate you. Love you. You don't need to hate that part of yourself. And then you move on. I'm going to do it anyways, though. We're going here. We're going to do that. And then you get the reward. Like, damn, that feels good. I'm so glad I did that. Like, think of in your own life. How many times have you done something? And you're like, man, that was pretty fucking epic. I'm glad I did that. Like, it was really hard. There was a lot of resistance. You didn't want to do the thing. You talked yourself out of it. Who knows how many ways. And for some reason, luckily, you went. You did the thing. And then afterwards, you're like, man, I'm glad I did that. And of course, a nuanced point There's times where you listen to that intuition and it's like, hey, I need to rest. I just don't have it in me, or I don't want to go to that thing. That's fair. Like that is the better voice to listen to. It's a very powerful thing to learn to say no to certain things as well. So understand where that energy is coming from. Is it the smaller parts of you just not wanting to expand? Or is it actually maybe a more developed part of you going like, hey, love the energy, love the motivation, but you've been working whatever, 14 days in a row. Today's maybe a good time to rest. We need it. We're going to get sick if not, whatever. So you're inspecting those things, but more than likely, 99% of the time, go do the thing, do the new thing, learn to live. Remember, there is an art form to living. We just haven't been shown that. We just haven't felt that. So you're learning to build those reference points for yourself. But the key is you got to do this for you, man. Like that's the whole thing. Like that's the whole point, right? Is you're doing this to help develop who you are, to experience life differently. And then ultimately what that's doing is that's you building that kingdom. And again, you're inviting people potentially or not, because all kingdoms have a boundary and a border. You're inviting people to join your kingdom. And so what we're talking about right now with your goals, with your hobbies, with the steps that you take in life is essentially the textures of your kingdom. What does it look like? What does it feel like when someone's joining you? If you haven't done what scares you, if you haven't faced those resistance points, you probably don't have a kingdom to invite anyone into. And so a lot of your resistance, maybe it's in relationships, maybe it's meeting new people, maybe it is starting that business, doing whatever it is because you feel like you don't have a kingdom to invite anyone into, or you don't understand what it takes to actually do it. But what did I say at the very beginning? You start small. You just baby step, man, little things. You go try this. You go metaphorically and literally go touch and feel stuff. You get out there, man. You feel it. You expand into the world, into the world, and therefore expanding your reality. That's the path forward, my friend. That's the path forward. So when this young man asked me about goals, this is what was going on. There's a lot to it. Goals are a powerful concept. But this is why people get frustrated with goals, is because we think of them topically. Why can't I achieve my goal? I want these things. And you can have deep desire, but desire is different than emotional leverage. And so we get frustrated because we desire it a lot, but we can't emotionally get there. We can't connect the dots. So that's how you create the through lane, because again, it's going to be focus. Moving towards your goals will not be easy. And another last little point here is you change the time frame in your mind. And this is one of the things I told this young man. I'm like, look, your mind is probably geared towards short-term results. That's what we look for. That's what we want. Like we're a very dopamine-rich society. Like your screens, your TikToks, all these things that are just fast, overstimulation. Give it to me now. Dopamine, sugar, right? In your face, bang, 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 loud noises. But the reality, so then we think like success in our goals is going to mirror that. But the reality is success in your goals is a long-term process. And so really what you're looking to do is change your brain to seeking rewards in hours and days and weeks. And you're training your brain to look at rewards in terms of months, years, and even decades. And when you move towards that, with that kind of pacing, life just looks a little bit different, because you have to fall in love with the process. And then the process actually becomes quite remarkable. You learn to love it and enjoy it, because you have to make it cool along the way. And you're not fixated on the short-term results. You're fixated on the process itself, which then lends itself to you reaching those distant goals that at some point won't be so distant. Time's going to go by. Like, I remember this, like pursuing my degrees as an adult, had no education at this point, right? High school education, but nothing formal beyond that. And I remember thinking like, man, the years are going to pass no matter what. And so why not add in this challenge into my life? And one day I'll wake up and I'll have the degree. So that went all along. 2 years later, associates. 4 years, bachelor's degree. 7 years later, master's degree. And it was like that time went by. I still did dope stuff. I didn't make school the sole focus. I did lots of other things along the way. But the time passed and I got a reward. Jiu-jitsu, same type of thing. Business, same type of thing. All these different things that you desire in life, right? Time's going to pass. Why not plug in the thing that you actually want to do along the way? Don't make it so powerful. Don't make it have so much energy. It's just one of the things you're doing. And then one day it's going to give you great benefits. My friend, I made this video for you. I want to thank you for watching, for tuning in. Continue to build your empire. That's what it's about, man. It's going to help you a lot. And I'm here to help you out. I'm happy to help you. Till next time, peace.